What's up guys, my name is Ace, and today we're going to be taking a deep look at all of the explosive lethals in Black Ops 6 to see exactly how they stack up against each other, what their maximum hit radius and kill radius is, as well as some other important stats. Before we do that, sorry about my voice, just getting over a cold right now, so I might sound a little different than normal. But without further ado, let's dive right into this. And the specific equipment we're looking at today is just the explosive one. So we've got the frag, Semtex, C4, impact grenade, drill charge, and the blast trap. For the Molotov and thermal grenade, I may cover those in a separate video. I just felt that they didn't really fit super well with all these others. And let's dive right into our maximum hit radius. This is the distance at which each of these pieces of equipment are capable of dealing damage, but you're right at the edge of that, so it's not going to kill you at this range. And the biggest hit radius goes to the C4 and the drill charge at 7.5 meters, followed by the frag, Semtex, and blast trap at 7 meters. And then finally, the impact grenade has a very small maximum hit radius at just 2.7 meters. Anything outside of that, it doesn't even deal any damage to you whatsoever. So you do have to be very precise with that one. Next, let's have a look at our maximum kill radius against a full health enemy that isn't using flak jacket. And with this, unsurprisingly, the impact grenade has the smallest kill radius at just 1.8 meters. Then we have the drill charge with a kill radius of just 3.8 meters. After that, the blast trap is just very slightly better at 4 meters. And very slightly better than that, we have the Semtex at 4.2 meters, then the C4 at 4.6 meters, and finally the frag grenade has the best kill radius here at 5.2 meters, which I honestly found quite surprising. Typically C4 is going to have the biggest kill radius out of all of these, including the frag grenade, but that's not the case right now in Black Ops 6. And there we go, those are obviously some of the most important stats when it comes to the equipment, but it's not everything. There's still a bunch of unique characteristics and things that I want to cover in today's video. The next thing I wanted to look at is your throwing distance, because this can be quite important. How far can you actually throw these across the map? How easy is it to throw right to the target you're aiming at? And it turns out of all of these, we can throw the drill charge the farthest, and it has the flattest trajectory. Then that's followed by the frag, Semtex, and impact grenade. These all throw exactly the same distance. They all have the exact same trajectory as well. Then after that, the C4 doesn't throw very far. That's one of the key characteristics of the C4. And then finally, of course, the blast trap, you're basically just throwing at your feet. Next up, an important stat to know is how long is your gun going to be down for when throwing one of these pieces of equipment? Because especially in a fast-paced game like Black Ops 6, you want to make sure there's not too much downtime where you can't even shoot back at your target if you start throwing something. And of course, this does depend on the gun that's in your hand, but with an SMG at least, all of these are pretty much the same at about 1.4 seconds. The C4 is just a little bit slower at 1.45 seconds, but that's probably not going to be all that noticeable in an in-game situation. After that, another key thing to know is what's the minimum amount of time from the moment you throw the equipment to the earliest moment that it will detonate. And with the frag, this is obviously quite slow since you have to account for the cook time of that. So this one will take a total of about 4.2 seconds to explode from the moment you start throwing it. The Semtex will be noticeably faster at 3.05 seconds. The C4 can be detonated within 1.78 seconds if you're immediately spamming the button to detonate it as soon as it leaves your hand. Then with the impact grenade, not surprisingly, this has the shortest time at 1.02 seconds, keeping in mind that's if you're throwing it right at your feet. It explodes on impact, so you have to account for the time that it's in the air. And with the drill charge, this is 2.1 seconds, but again, this is assuming you're standing like right up against the wall that you're throwing it at. You will have to account for travel time in the air if you're throwing it a distance before hitting a wall. Now you'll notice I didn't put blast trap here. I'm going to cover that separate since it has different stats that are important, since it's a placeable lethal rather than a throwable lethal. But before we do that, I just want to go through a list of the unique characteristics of each of these, some of which are obvious, some maybe not. With the frag grenade, the unique characteristic is it can be cooked and it can be bounced off of surfaces. And in case you're wondering, the cook time on this once you pull the pin is 3.6 seconds. With the Semtex, obviously you can stick this to surfaces and to enemies, and one of the key benefits of this is if you stick a flak jacket user, you will kill that flak jacket user, whereas with something like the frag, you can't kill flak jacket users anymore if they've got full health. Then for the C4, this also sticks to surfaces, not enemies though, and one of the potential benefits here is you have controlled detonation on that, so you can wait for your target to get really close to it before detonating. With the impact grenade, obviously it explodes instantly on impact, and like with the Semtex, if you directly impact a flak jacket user, you will kill them with an impact grenade, so that is one nice benefit there. And then finally, with the drill charge, obviously it drills through walls before it launches out the explosive, and once again, if you direct impact a flak jacket user, this will kill them, unlike the C4 and the frag, which can't kill a full health flak jacket user. So there we go, those are the unique characteristics of the throwable explosives. Now let's talk a bit more about the blast trap, because I found some interesting things with this. The first thing is when I was trying to test the trigger radius, like how close you have to get to this before it triggers, I noticed that if you move slow enough, you don't trigger this at all. You can walk directly on top of a blast trap. This isn't using any special perks or anything. You can be directly on top of it and not trigger it at all. However, if you exceed the movement threshold, which appears to be even just walking at full speed while crouching with an SMG, that will trigger it. At that point, your trigger radius is 2.5 meters, so you do have to get quite close to this in order to trigger it, and you have to be moving at a certain speed threshold, which realistically in this game, more often than not, you're going to be moving well above that movement speed threshold, which is probably why I've never noticed this until I was testing in a custom game. Then obviously a really important stat is once you trigger this, how long does it take before it detonates? Because you might notice there's the beeping sound that indicates it's been triggered, and it doesn't immediately explode. There's a slight delay, and this is 750 milliseconds, which really isn't all that long. Now, if you are full sprinting and you slide or dive just as you trigger this, this can give you enough time to get outside that 4-meter kill radius of this, but it's usually cutting it pretty close. And there we go, that wraps it up for all of the important stats that I found with these explosive lethal equipments in Black Ops 6. And before doing this testing, the Semtex was always my go-to piece of equipment. Now that I understand these better, I've done all the testing, I know the maximum kill radius and everything. Honestly, I'm sticking with the Semtex. I just find this is the most versatile and suits my playstyle the best. I think a big thing I like about it over the Frag, which does have a better kill potential overall, is with the Semtex, you just sort of toss it and forget about it. You don't have to stand there holding it in your hand, cooking it for the right amount of time, and in that process, you're vulnerable with your gun down and can't shoot back if an enemy suddenly challenges you. You just toss that Semtex and forget about it, and a nice benefit there is if you stick a flak jacket user, you're gonna kill them with a Semtex, whereas you can't do that with a Frag. So my opinion on this one didn't really change at all. One big surprising thing that I found here was with the C4. I honestly thought the C4 would have a much bigger kill radius. I thought it would have the biggest kill radius out of all of these lethals, but it doesn't. The Frag has it beat. And maybe I'm just used to how they normally handle things in Call of Duty, and I just have that expectation that C4 has the biggest radius. But to me, it makes sense that the C4 would have the biggest killing radius, since it lacks a lot of the versatility of something like a frag grenade. The big thing with the C4 is you have to manually detonate it, you can't throw it very far as well, so you can't just cross-map people with it. And as a result, one bit of feedback I have here is I actually wouldn't mind seeing a buff to the C4 when it comes to its overall kill radius. I think it should have at least the same kill radius of the frag grenade, if not larger. But obviously, I still think flak jacket should be able to counter the C4. I think even if you're standing directly on top of an enemy C4 when it goes off, if you're using flak jacket, you should survive. But if you aren't using flak jacket, I think C4 should be a lot scarier than it currently is. And on a similar note to that, I wouldn't be opposed to a slight buff to the drill charge as well. This one had a fairly disappointing kill radius, and especially when you factor in the fact that with a drill charge, as it's attached to the wall that's next to you, you get an indicator and you get a very clear audio cue that there's a drill charge there, and therefore you often have plenty of time to react to that and get out of the way. And when you combine that with the fact that it has the second worst kill radius out of all of the lethal explosive equipment, I just find that it's not as powerful as I feel it should be. Now, of course, those are just my opinions, and I'd love to hear from you guys in those comments down below. First off, how are you guys feeling about the results that I shared today? Were you surprised by any of them, like myself with the C4 having a smaller kill radius than the frag? And second, would you like to see any adjustments made to any of these? Do you like the idea of perhaps buffing the C4 or the drill charge a little bit? Or do you think maybe something else should be done? Just let me know down below. If you enjoyed the video, a like rating is always appreciated, and don't forget to subscribe for more if you haven't already. I'll talk to you guys next time.